Ready with me while we talk about my journey to no contact with my narcissistic ex. Going no contact really was a journey for me. I did not go no contact until about somewhere between 4 and 5 months after I actually left. I very much fell into the trap of he was wanting to stay friends after we broke up. I had no knowledge about how these people operate at the time, so I completely fell for it. So off topic, but on topic, I have said this before, but if your narcissistic or toxic ex is trying to stay friends with you, there is always an ulterior motive. Do not fall for it. There was a lot of shame that came with me staying in contact with him because I had a lot of people in my life that were really encouraging me to stop talking to him. I mean, rightfully so. Literally every conversation I had with him, whether it was good or bad, I essentially had an anxiety attack because my mind was on high alert anytime that he would reach out or talk or whatever, because I knew what it was capable of turning into. Like, every conversation took me 2 or 3 steps backwards. At least that's what it felt like. Especially when I started to notice that this was all happening, I knew it would be better to not be in contact with him, but I was justifying staying in contact with him because he was paying me money every month for money that he owed me. And so I was like, well, when he's done paying me off, then I'll go no contact. Which, if I'm really honest with myself, I just wasn't ready. I still was very much trauma bonded to him, and I couldn't imagine him not being in my life in some sort of capacity. And this is what's weird. I didn't necessarily want him as a part of my life, but my life was so consumed by him, I couldn't imagine it without him. And to me, that's like a classic sign that you're still very trauma bonded, when you don't want someone in your life, but yet you still can't let them go. I was still working on my concept of self outside of him. I was very much working on my own self-worth. And this was the part that was the slow progression. As I really continued to work on my self-worth, as that grew, my progression of no contact also grew. No contact really seemed like this enormous feat that I just was not going to be able to accomplish if I just tried to do it all at once. So what I did was I broke it down into bite-sized pieces. The first step that I really remember doing was I made this deal with myself where I said, okay, I'm not going to respond to his text message or answer his phone calls for at least an hour. It seemed so small, but that seemed like such an impossible task for me because I had essentially been trained in the relationship that I needed to respond to him right away. I mean, you have to think about it. I have 18 months worth of conditioning of that to detox from. So I did it. The next day, he had texted me and I set a timer on my phone for 1 hour. And I will tell you, if I'm 100% honest, I was dying that whole hour. And I don't even know how to explain what was going through my head. It's really difficult to explain. It was just, it's the conditioning. It's that feeling like I have to. It's also that fear of what happens when I don't. But I did it. I made it that hour. Now granted, as soon as that hour was done, I immediately texted him back. But I made it for the full hour. As I was practicing that more, it just naturally got longer. So it would go like an hour or a couple hours. Maybe I didn't start responding till the next day. So once I got comfortable with that step, then I moved on to the next one. My next one was that I was no longer going to speak to him on the phone. So if he called me, I wouldn't answer it, and I would wait a very long time before I text him back. After I got comfortable with that, then essentially what I did was I only talked to him unless it was business related, like the money that he owed me or getting off my phone plan or separating the storage unit, whatever it was at the time. I don't remember the exact order of this part, but during all of this is when I also started blocking him on social media too. That was a really challenging part for me because I kept unblocking and looking again and then blocking him back. That was kind of that's a whole nother subject. I will tell you, the more that I started honoring my own boundaries that I was setting with myself about being in contact with him, and the more I started to live my life and see what life was like without him, by the time he did make his last payment, actually, I'm sorry, he never made his last payment. He tried dragging that out. But by the time that came around, I was so ready to be no contact with him because I started to see that life was actually pretty great without him. So like I mentioned, he was dragging out this last payment that he owed me. And it got to the point to where I just asked myself, is this, I think it was $200. Is this $200 really worth me even trying to contact him again? And my answer was no. I never said anything to him. I didn't warn him. I just blocked him. And I never looked back. The point I'm really trying to make in this video is that sometimes getting to no contact is a journey. So if you're still working on it, don't beat yourself up for it. Try to set some goals that are smaller, that you feel like are more attainable for you. And then as you accomplish that goal, your self-confidence in that, oh, I can really do this, it starts to build over time as you start reaching these small milestones. I think it's great that there's people that are able to just go no contact right away and they're good to go. I was not that person, so I know I'm not the only one. Just keep working on yourself, set small attainable goals, and I promise it will get easier over time and you will reach no contact.